Share it now.
Oh, great. Thank you.
I had superpowers to force it by sharing something
Oh, thank
else.
you,
So.
Brad.
We use the three guiding principles of zeal, ignorance, and brute force. One
Indeed.
at a time, all together. That's all right. Let me say, by way of introduction, that relatively recently, uh, esteemed colleague and sometime fourth interest group presenter, uh, Ed Thelen, passed away. Uh, I am reminded that Brad was instrumental in bringing his Nike launch simulator to the web. And I thought that a reprise of that would be welcome in Ed's memory. So you're on, Brad.
Yeah. So um, I first met Ed when he presented to the fourth interest group back in June of 2018. He came and gave us an interesting talk on the Nike Hercules and its predecessor, the Ajax, Nike Ajax. And he talked to us about this is a surface-to-air missile system that was actually nuclear, which is a fascinating concept. And one of the things that he talked at length about was the manner in which the system worked and kind of its chronology. He himself, I guess, was involved in the operation of these back, I think he said, in 1955, which is shortly after the Nike Ajax got its start, and then followed along with it for many years. And the thing that caught my eye, of course, during the talk was that he presented this simulator of a game he had created to simulate the kind of the role of a battery control officer. And it takes several components from the actual system. So in the actual system, there's a radar indicator and then some charts that I guess are manually managed by a plotter. And there's analogs to that in the simulator. There's a vertical plotting board that plots the path of a missile when it's been launched, and a similar kind of an indicator inside the simulator. And there's also a set of target tracking signal readouts that show sort of the incoming signal and the noise and so on from them, and then a bunch of controls that have also an equivalent in the simulator. And so this caught my eye, and maybe the best way to sum it up is actually I got it. I heard from Ed actually maybe almost exactly a year ago. And he describes it best while talking about this to the fourth group. Brad Nelson suddenly quit listening and started scribbling and just a bit distracted. Just for fun, he started making a free basic to JavaScript translator. So instead of sending the compiled free basic, I sent the free basic text in Brad's translator to the online user. And what caught my eye at the time was that Ed had a little trouble with demoing on the system that we had there, and I thought, well, this is tragic that we've got this cool artifact written in BASIC, but here in 2018 at the time, it was challenging to even run it. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be great if you could run it on the web? And Ed's son wrote back, and for whatever reason, I don't know the full backstory, but in December he encouraged him to thank me, and I received this nice thank you from Ed, and which was the last time I heard from him, which was a kind of a cool beat to hear from him at the time. And I expressed some appreciation to him because Ed did a lot of things with history preservation, and in particular, I've just organically run into his stuff online. I one time went down a rabbit hole looking into the IBM 1401 and ran into his stuff, and it's like, oh, this is Ed. Okay, great. So it's a small world. In any event, Ed's simulator at the time was 3,100 lines of free BASIC, and he'd written it for this sort of modernish BASIC, but also kind of it's an interesting BASIC with some quirks to it. And I took at the time I happened to be between gigs at work. I was switching between roles, and so I had a little extra time and thought, well, let me try to run this as is. Free BASIC had a bunch of interesting quirks. It's got, the usual sort of arrays in various types in a BASIC. It has structured if else and end if and all of that. But it also has select case, and it has a do loop. It has a const construct and also the ability to initialize arrays with a curly braces, which is I've never seen that before in a BASIC. And interestingly, even though it has these nice structured features, it uses a goto and go sub in return for control flow, or at least that was how Ed applied it. So he's got labels and go sub and so on. And then it's also targeted at slightly more modern displays with a 1280 by 1024 graphics mode 10. It seems to be kind of derived from some of the PC basics where you've got a screen command to change modes, and then some of the usual line and circle drawing, and then options to read the mouse, print with formatting, and then weirdly C-isms like plus equal and minus equal and A10-2 and so on. So I took the approach of sort of parsing everything up front, and then using a sort of a straightforward tokenizer, and then I did a recursive descent parser. This was all done in JavaScript, and I allocated variables into a memory space inside of a typed array because my goal was to be reasonably fast. It turns out that for a fairly sort of seemingly simple simulator, he's got quite a lot of compute going on. And then what I do is I emit sort of whenever I reach kind of the end of basically a basic block or a point where there could be a control flow transition, I emit a chunk of JavaScript code that's just sort of a direct transliteration of whatever was going on in BASIC, and then I flush that out into labels and line number into a label and line number dictionary, and then control flow happens sort of dispatching through that, and it's reasonably fast. And then one of the things, because I was trying to run his stuff sort of as is, I structured it as a script that you could load that would then go through the other scripts in the system and interpret them if they've got this script type text basic. And so you can actually have a basic file, reference it that way, and then use it. But I also set it up so that you can do it inline in a single document. So you could reference this basic, and then you can have an inline script and have it run. And then you can do stuff like this. So this is actually the system running inside the slide deck, which is itself a web page. Interestingly, and I guess this is the one touch point with Forth. This idea I realized in hindsight was a pretty cool one, and so micro eForth that folks have seen run on ESP32s and so on. It also has a web version, and that web version is embeddable in the same way. And so you can also embed micro eForth and have text forth, and then have forth code and do something very similar. And here it is running in line. But anyways, back to BASIC and Ed Simulator. So this is the screen 21, and here's a simple sample. The circle command has a bunch of extra options versus the one in like GW Basic and stuff like that, QBasic. And it supports lots of colors and true color and so on. And then you can do all sorts of things like line drawing with it. And for these, by the way, I'm using the JavaScript canvas as a target. And then there's also this get mouse command that reads a mouse, including the button events and so on it, and there's options to do that. And so using all that, and I'll sort of chronology wise, I did a thing with it because I was between gigs at at work at Google, I decided to go ahead and open source it using the internal process for open sourcing a thing. So it's actually up as a Google repository. There's like GitHub, Google, basic. And when I did that, I also thought, well, let me try to get it to run some other stuff. I got it running the old IBM Donkey demo that apparently Bill Gates wrote. But so, anyways, that's one of the things that you can run with it. It doesn't run all the sort of modern QBasic stuff. I lost momentum and ran out of time with it at the moment. But it did when it landed in the Google repo, somebody followed along and it at least bubbled up a little ways on Hacker News. So got a little bit of attention. But in any event, let's take a look at the simulator. One of the things that Ed did with it, actually after I sent it to him, and he was tickled, of course, was that you'll see this in the simulator. The simulator has a readout for the incoming signal, and that one in particular was the most compute intensive piece of it, and so it has let me just load it up here. So this little display down here with the wiggling whatnot is fairly compute intensive, and the odd thing is that it's written in a way that it relies on the current time, and so if you put the window in the background, the clock gets all screwed up and it falls behind. And so Ed's reaction to this was well, this readout really isn't that important for the system. So the version he's actually got up on his website, he tore all this out, interestingly, but this is a snapshot as of the time. And so there's a few buttons in here. One of them is you can hold down this button, and then it is, as the radar circles around, that extra line that's drawn is the responder, the sort of radio responder challenge coming. So those are the friendlies coming in. So that means all the other ones are not friendly. And then you can click here to target one of them, and now you see the inbound signal coming in from that approaching enemy. And then you can go ahead and fire a missile off, and then you up above here you can see the trajectory of the missile, as it's coming, and you can see it's got multiple dimensions that you're looking at so that you can see the course. And as it arcs over, you can do various stuff. There's also an automatic mode up here. You can actually put the thing in a mode where it will do automatic targeting. And the thing I remember when Ed gave the demo at FIG, he had trouble with the mouse input because the free basic had some quirks that didn't work with whatever touchpad. And so his on-the-cuff solution for that was he put it in automatic mode and was still able to finish his demo. But in any event...
what could possibly go wrong?
Right. And so what will happen here is that as you get to this point where they'll hit, that's when you'll hit the target, and then you'll lose the transponder signal. It will get noisy, and then that's an indication that the missile has exploded. And boom, there goes boom. So that's okay. It hit the target. I'm gonna stick it in automatic mode here, and then it'll happily go along and do its other things, shooting off more missiles. And here it's like, oh, I've picked another target, and we'll go on and do stuff. If you with this version of it, if you happen to, and here it's shot off another missile. If you happen to put it in the background, what happens is that all this gets messed up because it assumes that it's able to do a certain amount of compute to keep up with the current time. The version that Ed has up, it basically takes away several of the buttons down in this corner in these displays because he figured it wasn't essential to the purpose of it. And I think for him it was more important to have a version that worked reliably. I don't know, that's interesting. That's an interesting path on that missile. But and there's I guess there's this steering column where you can see it go up and down where there's some amount of guidance with the missile. That's actually it. I can show the version he's got up on the website, but if there are any questions or memories of Ed, he was a fascinating guy and has a ton of stuff up on his website, which I've just in the interest of hoping it doesn't disappear in the world, I've taken a snapshot of, but for the moment, it seems like his son or someone is keeping it up.
So when we say XY plotting board, what we really mean is a plotting, a plotter with a pen XY paper plotter that would display this stuff as if it were really happening in real life. Uh, Brad, I'd like to ask on Ed's website, are there instructions for how to do this or
Yeah, so there's some links I've got in my slide deck. So there's so he's got a whole details page describing the simulator in some depth. He's actually I was surprised to notice he's taken down the original. I guess he liked this version well enough that he's taken down that one and only links to the modified one he produced afterwards. There's several links in here that kind of go through the thing, and then he liberally links to the actual simulator, and then this is the version that he's got up there where he's kind of simplified things a little bit. I think he ran into some computers where it wouldn't keep up as well, and then wanted to make sure that it was sort of more robust. And so this one is less intensive in terms of what all it does, but it's got the same core thing, the same simulation. It has the same automatic mode and missile launch and so on. So
the Nike system itself, Ed's familiarity with it dates from his time in the National Guard and as a serving uh, soldier. So thank you for your service, Ed. He later on went on to, years after fighting the Cold War in person, he went on to help restore I think really the most intact Nike site. I'm pretty sure that if they really needed to, they could still launch one if there was one to launch. Uh, they'd need working radars and stuff, which no longer are there. But you can see a real Nike site and examples of some of the hardware that wasn't actually on the Nike site in the hinterlands of Marin, I guess is the closest I can come off the top of my head to. You cross the bridge and it's then a ways to get to the site, and it's open, I would say once a month for tourists. Uh, but it's much to be desired if you're interested in this stuff. You can actually used to be able to ride the elevator up that would take missiles up from the ground to or from below ground where they were stored in the magazine to actual launchers. Uh, I think they had a launcher that erected. Uh, so Ed also did substantial contributions at the Computer History Museum, and his website details a lot of his interests in his life. Uh, he was interested in code breaking in World War II and radars and acoustic uh, tracking, pre-radar acoustic tracking of incoming enemy airplanes uh, and all sorts of stuff. And he was he was a great guy, and I miss him already.
I'm curious how many are old enough to remember passing Nike sites um, along the highway, going into Chicago all the time, growing up past the Nike site.
No, I'm down in Los Angeles though, and there's people point up towards mountain range here and say that there was something up there, but it's only urban legend at this point. So
Well, I think that the former Nike sites are all pretty well documented. Uh, there's one you can walk past various signs in the Bay Area. There's a There were two for the Bay Area. You can walk past the sign saying this is the other one uh, up in the hills on this
Well,
side.
the one that was a landmark driving into Chicago on the expressway got dismantled and just disappeared. Um, well, everything is decades ago now. So,
Yeah,
but
a
it
lot
was
of
a
I think
every,
Ed had actually mentioned. I think he was actually stationed at the Chicago site. In fact,
or a
oh,
Chicago
really?
a Chicago. I
abandoned.
don't know if there may well have been more than one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But
you know,
it seems strange to me that they had it right next to the Eden's Expressway. So everybody knew exactly where it was.
where one of them was, but you in the early days of the program, you had squadrons of bombers coming in, and you needed more than more than enough Nikes to shoot down all the bombers. And then they moved on to a different philosophy where it was one squadron, one Nike, uh, and that would have worked. That would have been more effective but messier. Uh,
Well, by the time you've reached Chicago, though, you've you know you pretty much have gotten to the heart of the country.
yeah, Angel Island had a Nike site at one time, and if you take the bus around to the various places to see, they'll point up into the woods and say, up in there somewhere was the Nike site, and it's just ruins, not worth looking at and not allowed to look at in any case. Uh, all right. I meant to mention in the course of talking about books, Bill Ragsdale has said that his life is becoming a little less cluttered and he's going to get back to working on his book. So, Bill, what's the timeline if there is one?
Well, the original timeline was a chapter a week, and then it went to a chapter a month. Anyway, but I'm back to it. Actually, my deck is quite cleared. I'm actually involved in ham clubs and magic clubs and a bunch of others, and now I have no locked-in dates ahead of me except working on the cosmology of fourth.
That sounds great. Uh, at one point, there were things, chapters that we could look at online in a repository. Was it GitHub or other?
Well, there's a early copy that in full posted on GitHub. Just go to Bill Ragsdale on GitHub, and there's the predecessor copy, which is complete. And with the current one, we've reorganized the structure totally and adding examples and so on. I forget the condition of the one that's posted on GitHub, but it's got an index, I believe, and I think it's fully readable. It'll give you a flavor of what's coming.
That sounds interesting. Could I impose upon you to post a link in the chat?
Yeah, if you can find it.
No, I meant for you to. May I impose
Oh,
on
me
you?
find it. Oh,
No,
that
for impose on myself. I mean,
that makes a great assumption of performance. I'll see if I can find it.
I'm always assuming that Phil is very capable, and I've never been disappointed. Andy, did you get your mic to work? Is there something you wanted to say? I'm hoping Andy will come and give us another talk about his phase-based direction finding radio system for tracking down ne'er-do-wells and unlicensed transmitters and interferers with the greater good. And he said in the chat that he was having trouble speaking to us. So perhaps that might be a question for another time. I see Doug's got his call letters up. How many of us are hams? I've not got
All of
my
us.
hand up. Doug and Andy and Bill, certainly. Andy's got his call up. Connecting to audio. Oh, good.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, Andy.
Oh, great. The laptop, something's screwed up with the microphone. I can't fix it. So I'm in my kitchen now, filling up my box of pills for the week, watching you guys. But I came over here to talk to you. Your last message said, what I want to say. Well, that looks like an interesting language. What was it called? Quirk or whatever?
Creole Fourth.
No, the guy that's that presentation you showed, the guy was talking about some languages like almost like basic. It was a form of basic, right?
What? Who was speaking? Brad?
Yeah, the thing I was showing actually is an implementation of BASIC for that was used to port Ed's Ed Simulator, which was written in BASIC.
Oh, okay. Well, let me just ask quickly: is that kind of like Visual Basic? Does it have a lot of graphics capabilities?
So the simulator has support for graphics commands similar to if you ever use the old GW Basic or Basica, on the IBM PC. So it's similar to that, not quite as many GUI elements as the as Visual Basic. Ed used a peculiar thing called Free Basic, which has a little bit more than what was in GW Basic. Supports some higher resolution graphics with more colors, and it does have limited support for the mouse, but it's just basic level of reading in from the coordinates of the mouse and the state of the mouse.
Brad, I don't want to take too much time during this session, but send me a link about that maybe.
Sure.
Or is it going to be KR6DD at ARRL.net?
All right.
My ham radio call sign. One of you guys said he's into ham radio clubs. Who was that?
That was Phil Ragsdale.
Oh, that was Ragsdale. Yeah, okay.
And Doug, yeah.
Okay.
You haven't. I gave you my business card.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, good. Okay, Doug. Yeah. So anyway, hey, you guys, I'm almost ready to give you a big talk about my project. It's already running. A prototype is running. If you go to rdf.kn5r.net, rdf.kn5r.net, you'll see the vector from my house pointing at the N6NFI repeater every time somebody keys it up. So I got it all working nicely now, and I'm preparing a GitHub documentation. When I get it all done, I'll give you guys a talk.
Do you want to do that in January, or do you want to do that in some undefined future time?
Undefined, yeah, the latter. I got a lot of documentation. Nobody understands. Well, one guy one guy said, hey, fourth is not that hard to understand. And he said, yeah, Andy, great job. He said, I believe I understand what you're doing. One ham. So they want me to convert it to C++. And I said, you guys got to get to understand. Well, a few of them do understand fourth. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys about it once I get it. And we're going to start making these radio direction finding nodes that will be circling the Greater Bay Area. We're going to locate these frickin' jammers that are kerchunking and jamming our repeaters. I get like I get very high accuracy, precision, and it's going to cost under $100. I'm using a Raspberry Pi 3B, and next I'm going to try a Raspberry Pi 02WH with a header, and that thing's only a gigahertz, but I'm pushing to the limits. The Raspberry Pi 3B, I'm doing a 311 taps FIR filter. Now, my buddies, radio hams on this project, Andy, you're crazy. Why do you use such a long filter? Just do correlation or some other stupid thing. I said, no way. I want to pick off the Doppler tone very precisely out of the audio in the stream. Well, you hams will know what I mean. And so you have to compare the phase of the audio tone that's created by the Doppler effect versus a reference spike. And it's working beautifully. But in fact, I'm running 4 cores. One of my prototype systems is running 4 Raspberry Pi 3B cores in parallel, splitting up the FIR filter into 4 pieces of the sound buffer. I see one guy shaking his head, understands what I'm doing. Okay. Good. So I'll give you guys a talk when I have it all documented, okay? But you can go to that website now. You hams can key up. Oh, by the way, you can key it up by Echolink if you're not in the Bay Area. I have an Echolink node running here, KR6DD-R, and another W6REK-R. We got Echolink access to the repeater. When you key up the repeater in another device, watch rdf.kn5r.net. Suddenly you see the vector jump and point steadily fairly steadily. It took me about 3-4 years to get this thing to work right. Finally, it works. And it's going to be a hell of a lot cheaper. You know that radio direction finder is available $400 or $500. One guy said, hey, Andy, by the time you add all these peripherals you need, the 5-element array for the Kraken, Kraken, look at Kraken online. Look at the Kraken, very sophisticated, hardware intensive direction finder. It's not Doppler. It uses the music, MUSIC algorithm. Look that up online. Music algorithm. It computes intense mathematical signal analysis using eigenvectors, eigenvalues. Man. But nobody that has a Kraken can tell me if they can capture a 1/20th second kerchunk as I can with a Raspberry Pi for under $100. So you hams among you know what I mean about kerchunking. They got a lot of schmucks on their repeaters jamming and interfering, I'm going to find them.
So when the tracker points west, is that idling or is that the repeater that you're talking about?
Oh, I'd have to open another tab here to see.
It jumps all around and then it settles due west.
Oh, yeah. It settles west when somebody keys up the repeater. Oh, I don't hear anybody on the repeater. I got a radio on here. So, oh, yeah, it's jumping 20 times per second. I sent the bearing with the U time, the Linux U time tag, because we're going to have several people sending bearings from different places. If you zoom out, you'll see there's another little teardrop, another guy's location, but he doesn't have anything working yet. The only vectors drawn are from from my QTH here. And so if I key up the repeater, I'll do it right now. KL6DD testing.
Welcome to N6NFI repeater PL100 Hertz.
It has a 5-second hang time. Okay, so anyway, yeah, we're going to cross lines in the map. In fact, you know, there's another very expensive radio direction system available, DF Delta Fox 2020 Tango. Look that up online. DF 2020T, $400 up. It uses a wimpy freaking 32-bit PIC chip. You know, the guy who wrote that, Robert Simmons in Los Angeles, I talked to him on the phone. I told him about what I'm doing. He said, well, why are you wasting your time and effort when I got a system already? Just buy mine. And then he hung up on me. but his system is shitty. It's an old microprocessor, too freaking slow. The Raspberry Pi with its over 2 gigahertz micro, and I think the one gigahertz, and I think that I have a Raspberry Pi 02W here behind me, and it's only 1 gigahertz, but I think it can do it. So I'm going to try that next. You know, the Kraken system has 5 RTL SDRs controlled by Raspberry Pi 5. If you look up what they're doing, it started out at crowdsource, and they were originally $300 if you were at the early startup. Then it went up to 400, and now I hear you spent a lot of money for all the stuff needed to make it work. So I can do it with a Raspberry Pi for pranking. All it takes is Raspberry Pi, 6 resistors and capacitors for a little smoothing of the antenna switching and interconnection, and some connectors. You know, it's peanuts compared to these other systems that are so freaking expensive. So I hope that hams will start building these all over the country. And I know there are hams waiting for me to finish this job. In Placerville, they've got jammers up the gazoo, wrecking their repeater communications. And, you know, the Ramsey Electronics DDF1, I have 2 of them. You can't buy them anymore. They're unobtainium. Even on eBay, can't find any. So the Raspberry Pi can do the job so easily. It's so powerful. And something I have not yet tried, guys, is I don't know how to access those vector operations that are available for the ARM processor. You know, I heard in the last presentation by who was that? The guy that has the forth-based FGPA computer. I forgot his name. Remember the last presentation?
Are you talking about Don?
Yeah. What was his name? He was showing us this hardware, intense hardware based on forth. All this, it's a forth machine.
Don Golding?
Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah. So I was thinking, but
He's here almost every month.
But you know that's a whole new ball game. I don't want to have it. You know, I'm 88 years old now. How much more learning experience do I have to go through to use that? And I don't know if it's going to be reasonably priced for ham radio applications. Is it fast enough? What's the clock speed? Does it compare to the 1 gigahertz clocks of the Raspberry Pis?
I don't think you want to base anything on it
Okay.
until it's common and available, and there's
Okay.
plenty of other stuff that you could use that's right available off the shelf that
Yeah, you
doesn't
know,
involve as much
yeah.
startup time.
Yeah, okay. Well, all right. That's all I can say for now, I guess. And I'm looking forward to talking to you guys about what I've done.
So, Bob, Armstrong, we've got about 5 minutes. What's new on your website? What are you going to talk about next month?
Oh, here, let me share. So I was just going and I just have gotten out. This is my is it all visible now? Let people take a look at my newsletter that I just got out, and
Okay,
one of
I'm going to my laptop to watch you guys.
pardon?
I'm leaving my office, going to the kitchen. I'll be watching.
Never mind. Go on with what you wanted to say.
No, anyway, one of the things is I've got my Christmas trees and also some links to some previous Christmas trees. Actually, this is all, in Cozy Fourth, but this was a few years ago. I did my Xmas. This is my Xmas tree, and this is my Wymas tree. But I also just wanted to mention that let me get back, go back. Oh, okay. I might as well flick that. But I also went and I really the fact that Brad could so quickly go and get the fundamental structures of cozy dynamic arrays, which really are the core of having an APL level, and trumping, leapfrogging things like Python. Um, this is very impressive, and I'm getting out an email that's more to a select group of people. Let me know if you'd like to get on it. It's an open list. Um, but one of the other things is he really made me rethink. I mean, he restructured the fundamental, header. He's got the same header, type, count, and then reference count to do things. But he's gone and made the direct address that you get, not to the first cell, the type, but to the start of data, and that does speed up the I mean, inside, APLers talk about things being parallel. Well, inside it's loops, on any ordinary implementation. And going and having the address go to that simplifies a bunch of this thing, which is used every loop of a system. So anyway, but one of the things is I also made a link here somewhere to Sam gave a talk back, I guess 2018, where he goes and talks about the internal structure of Cozy. So anyway, that's really, you know, uh, by next month. Oh, one of the things is, though, definitely everybody today at, well, I guess it's going to be 1:20 your time. Happy solstice. And I consider the holiday, the Christmas, the holiday season from now until perihelion, which is going to be on the 4th of January. So party, you've got an open interval. We're still getting closer to the sun. The days are getting longer, and we're getting closer to the sun. So that's
I'm closer to the sun.
that's
Thank you, Bob. And with that, I think it's time to end the recording.